What up, perps? Kid Copious. Back in effect. Purple State Party, you know what we're doing here. Repping America, the center, common sense, freedom, and that all-important peace on earth. Let's be inclusive and think about it. And speaking of inclusive, I want to talk about upcoming Christmas. You know, an interesting story from my life was when I joined the Mormon Church. I made an abbreviation, Xmas, right? And the missionary who was working with me said, "Hey, we don't do that in this church. We don't use Xmas, because when you use the X, you take the Christ out of Christmas." And it got me thinking. You know, there is two Christmases, and I'm perfectly comfortable with that. There's a big C Christmas that represents the birth of Jesus, and then there's the lowercase Christmas, I guess, for lack of a better descriptor. Lowercase Christmas, which is for everyone. So if I say Merry Christmas, please don't be offended. I'm referring to the non-secular version of it. But I'm cool with everybody's celebrations. Hanukkah, Diwali, Ramadan, Indian New Year, Lunar New Year. Whatever it is, you know, bring it. It's all supposed to bring people together. This is America. This is Purple State. We should celebrate everybody's individuality, and we should revel in our commonality of being American. So let's get this show started. We'll still begin to be talking about some very un-American people today, but here we go. All right, we're going to kick this off with something from the Babylon Bee. You know, if you watch this channel, I love the Babylon Bee. The satire, the breaking down of some of these stupid issues that are out there, and their sense of humor. May not agree with everything they say, but you know, that's what it means to be purple. You know, to accept people who have a differing viewpoint, because they believe it just as strongly as you believe your point. And if it's one of those gray areas, who's to say what the right answer is? We're just, you know, two fish swimming around in a fishbowl, looking for an answer, man. That's it. Babylon Bee, though, kicking it off right here. The Babylon Bee's person of the year is this housewife you've never heard of, who loves her kids and does her best. And that's the very same person, that housewife who loves her kids, does her best, and we have no idea she even exists. That's who our government should be working for. Our government should be working for those three right there. Not their own best interest. Not special interests, not big corporations, not enemy nations. I mean, come on. That's who we're supposed to be fighting for. But, you know, our government is more about pandering to their base. I think that at the end of the day is their number one priority. California retailers that refuse gender-neutral toy sections will be fined up to $500 under new law. Of course, that's in California. It was signed in law in 2021, and it's got the caveat of 500 or more employees that sell child care items or toys. So you're talking about what, Walmart, Target, maybe a few others. There may be a handful out there that I'm not aware of, but I mean, what, maybe GameStop? Make your own choices, folks. I understand. I'm for that. You know, I have a daughter, and I raised her to be equal parts, boy and girl. You know, I taught her at an early age things like video games. I had her on a computer before she was even in kindergarten. You know, she knows how to shoot. She knows how to start a fire. And if you want to name something that's traditionally, because myself, I don't really believe in that. I've never in my life ever understood why there are these distinctions between what's for girls and what's for boys. You know, some of the best players in Little League were girls. I just didn't understand it. And something like this is just stupid. You know, like Palumbo here says from the Examiner, parts of California are so downtrodden that people need to consult poop maps, last episode, to avoid human feces while walking outside. Homelessness is rampant in major cities. The cost of living is out of control. But California's state government thinks it's time to regulate Toys R Us. Look, parents have a hard enough time raising kids right now without all this fucking nonsense. All right, there is a big difference between promoting acceptance of people being who they are and promoting it and trying to proliferate it. Oh my God, I can't pronounce shit, dude. Right now, this whole studio just smells like weed and gunpowder. So forgive me if I go astray. This is the kind of stuff. This is just pandering. It doesn't do anything. Meanwhile, there's children out there who are barely even going to get a Christmas. That's more important to me. The cost of living in California. Oh, man. You don't know what it's like unless you live here. When basic necessities, what does California pay above the national average for? Gasoline for our cars, electricities for, everything, and water, which you have to have every 3 days or you die. Those are the most expensive things here in California. And what are they worrying about? Trying to blur the lines between genders? Let the kids blur their own fucking lines. Speaking of pandering, this has been the most interesting experiment ever as the Democrats try to pander to their side. Like the senator here from Vox, can Democrats overcome their deep divisions over Gaza? What fucking divisions are they? Hamas savagely attacked, and Israel is responding. And now Israel has to respond in Lebanon because other Islamic extremists. I'm sorry, if the one thing that links all of these people is that they're Muslim, is Islamic extremists, however you want to phrase it, they're all connected by that. Lebanon, Gaza, Iran. That's what it is. And meanwhile, up at the top right there, the U.S. is criticized for veto on UN ceasefire resolution. Why should Israel go to the bargaining table or have a ceasefire? How do you think that plays out? You think Hamas is going to promise to stop raping and killing? You think Hezbollah is going to lay down their arms? You think Iran's going to go, oh, you know what? We were wrong. We're not going to support these terrorists, these Houthis down in fucking Yemen. I mean, we have been attacked nearly 100 times by proxies from Iran. That little pissant country thinks they can fuck with the United States, and the UN is gonna join the campaign to ceasefire. See, the problem is when you're telling Israel that they need a ceasefire, you're essentially telling the United States, hey, you got to allow these people to do what they're going to do. It is stupid to believe that there is any negotiating with Hamas. They are fucking liars. They are proven liars. They broke the truce. They're the ones who attacked. They're the ones who spent their money on weapons of war instead of trying to help the people of Gaza. And now Israel's supposed to pump the brakes? When people like this fuckwad down in Turkey, they shut the fuck up. And fuck you, man. He accuses the West of barbarism and Islamophobia in the world in Gaza. Did anybody run around and say that we were being insensitive to the Nazis? I just wonder, because I wasn't alive then. So I'm wondering, did people think that, maybe Adolf had some good ideas and maybe we should back off? No. He was a vicious psychopath who was destroying the world in his quest for power. We did what we had to do. Nobody sat there and said, there may have been a handful, I'm sure. But no, this guy's up there, edged on, whatever. It really just kills me that we are not calling this kind of shit out. Israel has carried out atrocities and massacres that will shame the whole of humanity. All the values relating to humanity are being murdered in Gaza. In the face of such brutality, international institutions and human rights organizations are not taking any concrete steps to prevent such violations. Oh, okay. So again, we're back to this whole thing where, oh, well, what Hamas did was bad, but we're just going to have to let them get away with it. Does that sound familiar? Does that sound like the George Gascons, the Soros DAs around this country? Well, it's bad that they murdered that grandmother for her iPhone, but, restorative justice. It's the same bullshit way of thinking. These people cannot understand that things are murky. I have no problem. I feel bad for every innocent civilian who dies, period, wherever they are from, wherever they are. But the reality of war is that when you are attacked, you must attack back. And unfortunately, civilian casualties are part of every war. Hamas started this. Hamas is 100% responsible for anything that happened after October 7th. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. Blinken says gap exists in Israel's promise to protect civilians and results in Gaza. See, as we see when it comes to, let's take gun control, right? I want to protect myself when I'm out on the streets. I work in security, I go to banks. It's a scary world out there. I'm not allowed to protect myself in California. But the criminal doesn't follow those rules. And if the criminal gets caught, he gets let go. He gets a slap on the wrist right there. Oh, you shouldn't carry a gun. But I'm just not allowed to. And if I'm going to follow the rules. So if Israel's going to follow the rules, how are they going to get Hamas? If they announce exactly where they're going to drop a bomb, sure, the civilians will move. But so will Hamas. That's why we bombed Dresden and Berlin and Tokyo. That's why we had to do the things we had to do in in all wars. The enemy, especially when you're the bad guy enemy, such as Hamas, you are going to use every advantage. And one of those advantages is the kindness that Israel's supposed to show. This is not a time for kindness. No matter how you might feel about the innocent civilians in Gaza, this is not the time for kindness. Israel needs to do what Israel needs to do. I mean, what Blinken's saying here, that Israel puts a premium on civilian protection. In other words, expose your troops to danger for the good of innocent Gazans. The Gazans turned in that escaped hostage, the Russian guy who was working at the festival. He escaped. The Gazans gave him back to Hamas. So I don't know if anybody in Gaza could be truly innocent except for maybe the extremely young. But give it time, because they're taught hate in Gaza. I mean, that's the thing that's the most interesting about this story, as the left supports people who do not support the LGBT community. So people who are not inclusive are being supported by the people who are ramming inclusiveness down our throats, and it's just this weird fucking matrix. I ain't a part of it. So I get to just look back and laugh. And hopefully you do too. And they all are. I mean, when Trump was running, that was the big slogan right there. Trump said, grab them by the you-know-what. But when Hamas does something, where are they? And it's the same thing in the trans athlete. It's the same thing with other, why aren't they speaking out against those assholes in the Republican Party who teamed up to try to make Nikki Haley look bad? I don't know. They only support the people on their side. So it's not an international women's rights group. It's an international women's who are Democrats rights group. International women who think like us rights group. They should be condemning Hamas. There should be no talk about worrying about the other side. The other side, unfortunately, made their bed or chose that bed. And it continues on. UPenn president lights special please don't pull the $100 million donation menorah. Yeah, they're finding themselves in trouble because of their so-called convictions, which are just batshit stupid ideas that come from the leftist playbook. You know what you're reading. Not all calls for genocide are bad, says Ivy League president sporting cool new mustaches. Look at that. You're talking about 3 prestigious colleges. All right? 3 women, 1 black. That's the kind of progress that this country has made. Harvard? Come on. I mean, let's go back in history and think about that for a second. How monumental is that you have the 3 presidents of Ivy League universities being women and one of them a black woman? But because they're sort of supported, put there, whatever you want to phrase it, by the left-wing idiots, these 3 have to play the left-wing game. When they went to college, when they went to Congress to talk about it, they didn't want to take a firm stance against anti-Semitism. And they just lost $100 million. That money's bye-bye. And that's what needs to happen. I'm sorry, but this is one of the most egregious things we've seen. This isn't a faux pas. This is flat out just Nazi Germany. To not take a stand against it? They were asked, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate your university's code of conduct or rules regarding bullying and harassment? Yes or no? And these 3, who were smart-assing Congress the entire time, being all smirky and shit, said, it depends on the context. What's the context of genocide? I would love to know what that means. I would love to know how you can say that based on the context that the call for genocide was not hateful, was not bullying or harassment. Going up to Jews and singing from the river to the sea, that is the extinction of Israel. That is the extinction of a lot of these kids' parents or ancestors. But for them, they can't really answer that because they don't really know. Second gentleman, Doug Hemhoff there. The lack of moral clarity is unacceptable. Yeah, I would say so. I could understand people calling for genocide if they were in like Gaza or like they do in many of the Muslim countries around the world. I get that. You were raised to hate Jews. I get that. But here at our premier universities in the United States of America, we have an entire group of people now that are supporting Palestine and calling for the extinction of Jews. And our university leaders can't condemn that. I don't give a shit what they said afterwards. The guy who pulled the funding said that it was their permissive approach to those calling for violence against Jewish people. If a TV show was calling for the extermination of gay people, wouldn't you protest it? Wouldn't you pull the funding? Right? But in this case, it's a white religion. That's what it boils down to. The left has demonized white people. And although not all Jews are white, I think safely you can sort of Western, I guess. Let's go with Western. It must be torn down. It's a religion. It must be bad. Forget the fact that they're tolerant and basically on your side. It is. Ask Donald Trump. He'll tell you all about it. Committee members have deep concerns with the leadership and their failure to take steps to provide Jewish students the safe learning environment that they are due under law. That came from Virginia Fox, the committee chairwoman. Right now, there are 2 Jewish students at UPenn who are suing the school Because as they say, it's become an incubation lab for virulent and Jewish hatred, harassment, and discrimination. And that the school is selectively enforcing rules of conduct. So and again, this is exactly what we've already seen. All right? People rioted over George the fuckface Floyd. Right? Nothing happened. Some of those people were actually paid money by the city because they were arrested. January 6th, security opens the doors, people walk in, and those people are being charged with pretty serious crimes. Selective enforcement. So as part of the fallout, Rabbi David Wolpe resigns from Harvard's anti-Semitism advisory group. And as he wrote on X, the ideology that grips far too many of Harvard students and faculty, the ideology that only works along the axes of oppression and places Jews as oppressors and therefore intrinsically evil, is itself evil. Well, this is important to me because I've known Rabbi Wolpe. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. I'm sorry if I'm not. I've known him for about 30 years. Not personally, but through his work on different theological and biblical documentaries. It's a big part of what I watch. I watch a lot of those things. Jesus, Islam, different things like that. I'm fascinated by it. I don't practice any one religion. I don't claim to have all the answers, but I'm basically just a solo religion unto myself, I guess. But I always liked this guy. And to see him in the middle of this controversy really humanizes it even more for me. The Jewish people were attacked. Okay? Any sign of support, even if it's minuscule, for their enemy is just gross. Pure and simple. You could say that it's about freeing Palestine, but that's supporting Hamas. I'm sorry, it is. Because it's not supporting Israel. And like he said, that whole idea of oppressed and oppressors, get into that more lately. It's just sad to see he's been dragged into the controversy. He's a good guy, very fair-minded. Like a lot of rabbis I've met have been. I've met a lot of rabbis, and they're more purple than you would imagine. But, he said the oppressors and the oppression. For most people, and pretty much all of the left-wing liberals, their mind is too simple for the word and. A-N-D. They only get O-R, or. On or off. Oh, that's easy, right? You flip a light. It's either on or off. A or B, red or blue, black or white, oppressed or oppressor. But things aren't exactly split that way, are they? The world is murky and gray. But reality is reality, no matter how you phrase it. And that's what they miss the most. Is that it's black and white. It's not black or white. Not everybody who has power is the oppressor. Not every person who has less is the oppressed. And when you start assigning that to nationalities or religions, it's pretty ugly. Look at the mess we're in right now because the left, really, really want us to believe that all whites are oppressors and everybody else is oppressed. Even though there's plenty of gray area. But their minds don't work in that gray area. It has to be one or the other. Red or blue. What are we here? We're purple. We're red and blue. I saw the trailer for this Progress new GTA game. Lets you run over hookers while playing as female person of color. I gotta say, as much as it hurts me, I'm not looking forward to this. I'm not. It sort of looks like they're catering the game more towards modern day, sort of maybe Florida Man. You know, it is set in Miami, but it seems more Florida, man. To me, it doesn't seem like it's like the legendary Vice City. You know, Miami of the 80s. You know, the colors, the cars, the women, the styles, the music. Man, I would have to say I'm meh on it. And I don't even remember. I didn't know what Grand Theft Auto was the last time I was meh about Grand Theft Auto, because this is one of the greatest games ever made. Vice City was groundbreaking, absolutely groundbreaking, but this is not the place to cover that. But it's nice to see, though, that we'll be able to play as a Hispanic woman and run over hookers. That'll be interesting. High-speed rail line linking Las Vegas and Los Angeles area gets $3 billion Biden administration pledge. Yay. Of course, all the work was put in by Democrats, most of them representing Nevada, because at the end, as we're going to see, the only person who benefits from this is Nevada. But, you know, they're carrying passengers at nearly 200 miles per hour, which is a bullshit number. This article has a lot of that kind of twisting things and exposing things at the same time, accidentally exposing things. They have a train right now that runs from Miami to Orlando. Its max speed is 125. That's about all it's allowed to do. But its average speed is about 69 miles an hour. Yeah. What the hell do you think this thing's really going to do? Who in the... This privately owned company that's owned, of course, by Fortress, one of those big investment groups with their DEI and all that other bullshit. They're going to get nearly $4 billion. Notice how they say $3 billion to make it sound lower. It's really closer to $4 billion, $3.75 billion in federal infrastructure funds towards what they call a public-private partnership, which makes absolutely no fucking sense. This isn't infrastructure, okay? LA to Las Vegas does not help America one bit. It really doesn't, okay? It's not like it's connecting major cities or ports or, you know, military bases with supplies. It's not doing any of that. This is a blatant cash grab, because they'll probably never make it. And then this company, Brightline, will just keep most of the $3 billion. They'll spend it on environmental studies and feasibility studies and all this bullshit. But it ain't even going to L.A. It's going to Rancho Cucamonga, which is, you know, L.A. adjacent. I mean, well, not really, I guess. There's Union Station over on the left, and there's Rancho Cucamonga. So you're already going to be on a train for an hour and 15 minutes. Once you reach Union Station, of course, to reach Union Station, you'll have to drive, or you could drive to Rancho Cucamonga. You have to leave your car, which, of course, is going to turn into a hotbed of fucking homeless zombies breaking into them. Well, that's not convenient. That's not even remotely convenient. And then you're going to shoot straight up through the mountains and out into the desert when you could just catch a plane. I mean, in Florida, we found plane tickets that were cheaper than the rail tickets. And you know what was even cheaper and it only took a few hours longer? A bus. Of course, I don't think any of those is really a great option, but whatever. But right there, people representing Nevada talk about connecting Las Vegas and Southern California by high-speed rail will create tens of thousands of good-paying union jobs. Again, the union must be behind this. Boost Southern Nevada tourism economy, and cut down on I-15 traffic. Yeah, that's the little selling point at the end there. That's the only thing that California might benefit. This was proposed by a Democrat who represents the Las Vegas Strip. So they're getting nearly $4 billion from the federal government to build a train that, if it gets built, is only going to serve Las Vegas? What? All of a sudden you're going to get all these tourists coming from Nevada to Rancho Cucamonga? Yeah, I don't see that. This is to help promote casinos and the other entertainment that's there. But primarily, it's to take advantage of people's well, gambling addictions or love of gambling. That's stupid. But it benefits Nevada, Las Vegas, and that's it. And they talk about calls for the high-speed rail line whisking tourists through the Mojave Desert to Las Vegas, date to at least 2001. And of course, it's had start, stops, various names over the years before getting sidetracked during the COVID-19 pandemic. Sort of trying to allude to, like, this would be done if it wasn't for COVID. And Florida-based bright lines. So federal money is going to come here. California is not going to see very, very much of it, of the income generated from this. But Florida and Nevada will do fine. Okay. Then they, right there, they're talking about their Miami and Orlando line. Other proposed ones, Dallas and Houston, LA and San Francisco. See, now that makes a little bit of sense. But what did we say at the beginning? What are we paying the most for here? Gasoline, electricity, and water. $4 billion could go a long ways to actually fixing some of those problems. But we're going to build a train to support Las Vegas. That's the kind of shit we're dealing with here, folks. Fortress Investments, Brightline, Vegas casino owners, they're going to see some great benefits from that $4 billion. But are we going to get a new reservoir? Or maybe some nuclear reactors or some desalination plants? Maybe figure out a way to get our gas a little cheaper? No. High-speed rail to Vegas. Yeah, that'll solve everything. Yeah, that's great. Democrat pollster Greenberg, Dem base gives Trump higher approval ratings than Biden. Yeah, because the actual facts of it is that under Trump, there was less to complain about than under Biden. Pure and simple. A lot of people's visceral cartoon hate for Trump was based on media spin, not how we actually felt, not how we were actually doing. We felt like things were going the right way under Trump. I'm sorry, I'm not even planning on voting for him because it wasn't necessarily Trump. It was the mindset, the beliefs, the whatever that they had versus what the left is giving us. Young voters, black voters, Latino voters collectively giving Trump higher grades than Biden. Because when you're basing your approval on deeds, what's Biden done? What has his entire party done other than confuse the shit out of people? I'm going to end with this one. Good people don't need laws to tell them how to act. Bad people ignore laws telling them how to act. But the worst people always find a way to be the ones making the laws. Yep. I mean, you see it your entire life. People will take whatever advantage they can get. And some people really want to be in a position so that they can get all the advantages shifted their way. And that's what we're seeing out of these politicians. We're seeing them greenlight these projects like we were talking about the train from LA to Vegas. And now that company is going to make campaign donations to the people who helped get that money in the first place. It's just legalized bribery. These politicians practice insider trading on a level that the rest of us would never be able to get away with. And that's what needs to change. This isn't about political parties. This is purple state. This is about putting the power back in the hands of the people. I'm Kid Copious. I'm purple state. So are you. Peace, y'all. Merry, Merry Christmas. Yeah. And happy holidays. Oh, yeah. Don't get out.